Hey, how's it going? I'm Becky Saif. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to this video where I'm going to show you how you can do sidechaining inside Ableton Live 11. And then after that, I'm going to show you a cool little trick that I like to do using the audio effect rack, where you can not only sidechain the bass with the kick, but also the snare at the same time. If you do want any more long form music production, I do stream on Twitch every week, 3 times a week. Check out the link below. It's twitch.tv/Becky Saif. So let's jump into Ableton and I'll play you what I have. So we have a bass line, we have a kick drum, and we have a snare drum. Now, if you want to skip this next section because you already know what sidechaining is, then please do. I'll leave the timestamps below. But if you don't know what sidechaining is, then this is a really important step, as understanding it will help you with your sidechaining journey. So, sidechaining, what is it and why do we use it? It's actually a really important technique and a really great technique to get clarity in your music. For example, a kick drum and a bass line generally will occupy the same frequency on the frequency spectrum. They are the same pitch, basically. And if you have a kick drum playing at the same time as your sub bass, they're both going to be fighting for attention dynamically, and it can be quite confusing for the listener to hear both of them if they're both trying to compete for dynamics in that same frequency at the same time. So we would use a compressor. We would stick it on the bass line and we would sidechain it with the kick drum. So we would send the kick drum signal whenever the kick drum is being played. We would send that to the compressor on the bass line, telling the compressor to pull down the bass dynamically so that we can hear the kick drum being played and it punches through whilst having the bass line there, but moving it every time the kick drum is being played. And you can do sidechain compression with anything, really. You could sidechain the snare onto the mid-range of your bass, and every time the snare is being played, it will pull down the mid-range frequencies, the same frequencies where the snare occupies, so that there's no competition for dynamics in that frequency. It helps for clear mixes and it helps for clarity so that the listener can really hear what is going on in the mix, and it also actually really emphasizes punch. And if you want your kick drum to punch through in the mix, sidechain compression is the one. It's definitely the one to use. All right. So let me show you how you can do that inside Ableton Live 11. So you want to get a compressor. So grab the compressor and drag it down onto your bass line in this instance. So we're going to drag it onto the bass and we're going to bring it onto the simple view, which is this. So clicking the different views down at the bottom of the compressor. And then you want to activate the sidechain function. And to do that, you would go to this triangle at the top and click it. And then you have this sidechain section. In order to sidechain the kick drum to this bass line, we're going to press sidechain and it activates it. And then the audio from, we're going to click that and we're going to go up to our kick. Now the kick is being sent to this compressor on the bass line. So let's play it. And you can see the output here, which is what we're hearing, the bass line. That's moving with the bass line. And now on the threshold bar, you can see that this is when the kick drum is being played. However, the compressor is not being activated. And the reason why it's not being activated is because the threshold has not been pulled down enough for it to be activated. So listen with your ears and watch this middle bar in the compressor as I pull down the threshold. So as you can hear, as I pull it down to the bottom, the kick drum is really punching through, and actually the bass line is being yanked down by the compressor every time the kick drum comes through. We don't really want that. We want it to just be moving and dancing in partnership. So let's move the threshold back up and we'll bring it down to a nice desired taste. Cool. And then you would play with your ratio, your attack, and your release to get your desired effect on the compressor. And that is how you would normally use a compressor. So a fast attack means that the compressor activates super quick as soon as the kick drum comes in, and a fast release means that it deactivates as soon as the kick drum stops playing. So play around with your attack and your release and your ratio to get your desired sidechain compression. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the audio effect rack. So we're going to go to audio effects and we're going to drag the audio effect rack onto our bass line. And we're going to delete the compressor that we had before because we don't need it. Open up the audio effect rack like this. So we now have the drop audio effects here and also drop audio effects here. What we're going to do is we're going to sidechain not only the kick drum to the bass, but to the low frequency of the bass, but we're also going to sidechain the snare, but to the mid-range of the bass. So in order to do that, we need to use EQ. EQ first and then sidechain compression. So we're going to go to our EQ8, drag an EQ8 down onto the drop audio effects here, and then drag another EQ8 down onto drop audio effects here. We're going to rename the first chain as low, and we're going to name the second chain, which is Command and R to rename, as upper frequencies. Okay, so now the low frequencies are here and the upper frequencies are here. My EQ8 is set so that it automatically creates a high pass filter on the way in, but actually we don't want that on this instance. So we want it to be around 225 Hertz on this ×4 slope. And then on the low frequencies, we want the same, but reversed, the image flipped. So in order to do that, a really cool and quick way to do it, just delete the EQ8 from the low because we don't need that. We're going to take this EQ8, we're going to hold down Alt and drag it over to the low chain, drop it. Now we have the same EQ high pass on both, but we want it to be low passed on the low. So in order to do that, we go down to the number 1, which is a high pass ×4, and we change it to a low pass ×4. And now it's low passing at the same frequency, 225 Hertz, which means we have this on the upper and this on the lower. Now we're going to sidechain using the kick drum on the low frequencies where the kick drum would normally sit in the lower frequencies. And we're going to sidechain using the snare on the mid-range frequencies of this bass line. So then we're going to bring a compressor down onto both of the chains. So a compressor onto the lows, a compressor onto the uppers. Go onto the lows and we're going to use the same technique, sidechain and kick on the lows. And then on the upper frequencies, we are going to activate the sidechain, but this time we're going to use the snare drum. And just to solo those so you can hear them separately, this is the upper frequencies. And this is the lower frequencies. So you can hear how the kick drum is pulling down the lows and the snare drum is pulling down the mids and up. And that's really great because now you have this dancing partnership with the kick drum, with the snare drum, and with all the frequencies of your bass line. So let's play that all together. Cool, done. And that's how you would sidechain inside Ableton Live 11. I hope you enjoyed the cool little trick that I like to use using the audio effect track. And if you did like this video and you found it useful, please like it, subscribe to my channel for more content, and I will see you for another video. Bye!